Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the next session here. Thank you for your patience. We were just having a little bit of technical difficulties with some audio and stuff, but as always, we troubleshoot on the fly and we get it done. So this is going to be awesome. I'm excited to have Josh Fonseca back with us again, and he's an instructor with the Denise Amber Lee Foundation, and he's going to be doing a session called Face That Fire, A Journey After Traumatic Events. Thank you very much, brother, for being here, and take it away.
Thank you. All right, everyone. First off, let me apologize for that technical difficulty. Turns out I go to turn my computer on to do this, and it needs a reboot, and now all of a sudden the sound's not working. So I'm going to do this as best I can. I appreciate everyone's patience. I appreciate everyone for being here, and I hope we have a good time doing this. Now, the title of my class is Face That Fire, The Journey After Traumatic Events. After working the October 1st shooting, I went through a little bit of depression, up and down roller coaster of emotions that I didn't know I had, especially being a dispatcher. I didn't know those were still in there. So I decided to kind of share my story with everyone following that, so that not necessarily that mine is more traumatic than yours or my story is more dramatic, but more about that if I'm experiencing this, maybe I could trigger something in you to realize that you might need some help as well. Being a dispatcher, we all kick it to the side. We're not supposed to feel that way. And I'm trying to show that that's not the way it feels. It's okay to not be okay. So I always include this photo in my presentations. I wouldn't be here today without this young lady. It's unfortunate such a tragic event happened to her, but it kind of brought us together at the Denise Amber Lee Foundation and got me going here. Now, again, my name is Joshua Fonseca. I got my career started on May 11th of 2011 at the Torrance County Dispatch Center. It's a very small agency. It's 4,000 square miles, but it only has 2 stoplights, and they're within a mile of each other. So as you can imagine, it's not very big. We maybe had 2 county officers on at one time. We had some city jurisdictions, but there we did police, fire, and medical. So I had some fun with the good old NCIC as well as doing EMD there. While I was there, I became a certified law enforcement trainer. The way New Mexico works is within your first year, you have to go become a certified dispatcher. While I was there, a lot of the instructors that were instructing us were also dispatchers that had gone through the course years prior, and they went on to be instructors, and I said, hey, I want to do that. I want to try to do this. I also was a volunteer firefighter, so I've been on both sides of the radio. I have been that guy that says the house isn't here, the house isn't here. Oh, wait, dispatch, there it is. So it's just something about being on the other side of the radio that it just doesn't click up here sometimes. While there, I became an EMTB within the state. I left there in March of 2015. From March to December, I was a valet on the good old Las Vegas Strip. It was fun. It was exciting. It wasn't the potential I know my mind was good for, so I applied everywhere I could. And in December of 2015, I got hired on by the Combined Communications Center for the city of Las Vegas. And we dispatched for the city of Las Vegas, Clark County, North Las Vegas, and the surrounding rural areas. Pretty much if it's in Clark County, we dispatch for it except for Henderson, Boulder City, and Mesquite. I've achieved my associates in fire science with the special interest in emergency management. And I joined the Denise Amber Lee Foundation in February of 2020. I had these hopes that I'd be going on and seeing all you guys in person. And then the heart of COVID hit, and here we are virtual, but I really enjoy what I'm doing. So the objectives for today are we're going to understand that traumatic events can lead to and also mental fatigue, discover what mental health means and realize it may become personal sometimes, and start a new path to a new perspective. I started this off using a new normal, but it's been played so much over the last year that I decided, you know what, we all need a new perspective sometimes. And identify when a refreak can happen. Sometimes we recover and we feel we're doing good, and then something drags us back in, and it's important to identify that as well. So I'll give you a little information on why I'm here with you today. The Route 91 Harvest Festival, we also call it 10-1, October 1st. The shooting I'll refer to probably different ways today. It's all the same event. We just refer it differently out here. At 10:05 p.m., a gentleman by the name of Stephen Paddock decided to open fire on guests attending the Route 91 Harvest Festival. Nobody knows why he did it to this day. They did see that he had other venues in mind from here all the way to Chicago, but he decided this one for unknown reasons. He fired over 1,000 shots into the crowd, and more than 1,000 people were injured, not all of them from gunfire. I'm sure you can imagine people running for their lives, fear. Some people got trampled, they fell, multiple injuries. At the time of the event, there were 58 deceased. Since then, it became 60 total. Unfortunately, 2 individuals succumbed to their injuries since the event, so now the total is up to 60. On duty that night were 11 comm specialists. My goodness, I'm sorry. That includes me. We had 3 additional come in on their own. 18 were totally involved from the start to the end of the event. At one time, we were working 8 radio channels. 60 to 70 incidents were pending at any given time. So not only as a call taker taking the calls, but as a dispatcher, if you see that many incidents pending at one time and you can't send help to them, imagine the mental fatigue and trauma that can cause you on the dispatch side, even though you're not directly taking the calls. Because at the Combined Communication Centers, we have call takers and we have dispatchers. We do move around throughout the day, so I can dispatch for a few hours and go back to call taking. But for the most part, at the event, all the dispatchers were looking at 60 to 70 events at one time. We had 1,001 total incident-related calls. Somebody just pointed out not too long ago that if you put a hyphen in there, guess what? That's 10-1. Kind of ironic. And all of this happened from 2200 to 0800 the next day. So one thing I want to say is, I forgot to leave out, and I'm sorry. I do have my family at home. I have my wife. I have 5 kids total. My 18-year-old son, he just graduated. Congrats, class of 2021. And I have 4 daughters, ranging from now 3 years old to 10 years old. So at the time of the event, my newest one was not even a month old when this event happened. And then the one above her was maybe 2, almost 3. And I bring this up because it's going to come into play later in my journey. So to define the psychiatry trauma, it's an experience that produces psychological injury or pain, according to dictionary.com. And the impacts of psychiatry trauma are on the body, our stress, overeating. I weighed a cool 150 before this happened. I'm just kidding. We had lack of energy, not wanting to do anything. I had anger. And then mentally, I was angry mentally. I had mental fatigue, getting really short with callers, and the feeling of incompetence. And not that I can't do the job, but more of why am I doing this job? Or should I really be doing it anymore? And denial, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I'll say it again, it's okay to not be okay. As dispatchers, we put up this wall that it's okay, we'll just go on to the next call. It's okay, that call didn't bother me. Well, eventually, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, those calls add up, and that's why another reason why I'm here today. So I like to do the common misunderstanding, and that gets back to what I said. It's okay, we'll just put it off. So for a traumatic incident, it does not have to be a big event. Yes, the Route 91 shooting or the 10-1 shooting identified my traumatic incident, but how often do we take those small calls a day that we leave there drained? If there's a meme out on the internet saying when your day ever hit you so bad you drive home going the speed limit with the radio down, well, that's kind of how you feel leaving. A lot of small events can have the same impact, and one dispatcher could face one big event and you both feel the same way going home. I go back to my 4th grade teacher. It's a little riddle, it's kind of cheesy, but she tried to stump us one day. And she explained to us, what weighs more, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers? Well, the common thing is a ton of bricks. Well, it all weighs the same. It's just may take a few less bricks to equal that ton than it does feathers. But in the end, it all weighs the same. Again, another can face 20 small ones, but you both feel the same way going home. And one image I'd like you to keep in mind is the trash can image. And my buddy Matt, who's also with the foundation, him and I kind of try to press this on people is, imagine you have this big trash can in your house. It could be your regular kitchen trash can. You get a piece of paper and you throw it in there. It's not going to make a difference. You get 2 pieces of paper, throw it in there. Still not going to make a difference. What happens when you throw a whole bunch of papers in there over time? Over time, eventually the trash can is going to get full. And if you do nothing about it, if you don't empty it or at least lower it, eventually it's going to overfill, and you're going to be stuck with a mess that you're trying to clean up, and sometimes you don't know where to start. So it's really important to empty the trash can, as I like to say. So we're going to talk about the beginning of my self journey. The signs that I wasn't seeing was I was mad just sitting at home playing with my kids. As I just told you, at the time I had not even a 1-month-old and a 2.5-year-old-ish. And I mean, it's one of the most beautiful sights to see 2 small kids playing, especially one being a newborn. But sitting there watching them, I was found myself very, very angry. And I wasn't angry with them. That was far from it. I was just angry. Like, why am I so mad? I was very easily getting short with callers. You have the ones that aren't so nice to us, I give you, but even the ones that they're like understanding that they're calling you for a problem and trying to be nice to you, the nice became annoying, like, oh my gosh, just tell me what you want. And no matter how hard I tried to refresh and regroup, I wasn't myself. Nothing I could do that I thought would work in the past was working for me. I found this quote, "I'm so sick of pretending I'm okay when I'm breaking down inside." And that's what it was. On the outside, I was this person going along like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. But on the inside, I was lost, had nowhere to start. My trash can was overflowing, and it was getting beyond control. So I do what I call my light bulb moment. I really like listening to music. It's really helped me in the past. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to continue to listen to music. Now, years and years ago, when I went through a divorce, I listened to a group called Linkin Park. And a lot of their songs that they had were just not necessarily bad songs, but they were like yelling, and the yelling really helped me. It helped calm me down, ironically. The yelling on the outside calmed me down on the inside. So I thought I'd do that again, and I found this group called Five Finger Death Punch. I've been listening to it for a few years and really got into them. They just released a new album, and I thought, you know what, something new will be great. Let me try this. On this album, I'm so sorry, I don't remember the name now, is a song called I Refuse. If you ever get a chance to listen to it, I suggest you do. I was driving to work when I heard this, and the words of the song started bringing me to tears, to the point where I was almost to the point where I had to pull over and just let the tears fall. I realized then that I needed to get help. I needed something more than what I'm doing, because I refused to let this incident get to me. And it was time to get help. So everyone has their own definition of mental health. It's one of those things that could be interpreted differently for everyone, and it's all a matter of perspective. But according to dictionary.com, mental health is the psychological well-being and a satisfactory adjustment to society and to the ordinary demands of life. In the field of medicine, it's the maintenance or achievement of such well-being and adjustment. What I find wrong with those are, what are your ordinary demands of life? Denise, I think you're right, and justice for none. I think you're right. What are your ordinary demands of life? Maintenance or achievement of such well-being and adjustment. Well, we don't work in these ordinary demands of life. Yes, we work in an ordinary environment that is high-paced, but we don't face the same thing every day. Every call is different. We can all admit to that. Every call is different. We may process it the same way as far as how we send help, but to us, every call is different. And what is considered achievement of well-being and adjustment? Like, we're different. We're a different group. Anyone in public safety and medical field is a different group than everyone else, because we see and hear things that a lot of people can never imagine in their lifetime. And like I said, everyone can interpret these differently. If you want to look at this, it says stress, but to me, that's desserts, just spelled the wrong way. It's a matter of interpretation and perspective. So there's a few types of stress out there that I'm going to touch base on. There's compassion stress and fatigue. This is the stress where you're constantly taking these calls and constantly witnessing traumatic events or traumatic incidents that eventually your body's just like, yeah, whatever. All right, just tell me what I got to do. There's a secondary trauma exposure, and this can happen a lot with, dispatcher and police officer couples or two dispatchers, people within the field especially. I'm telling you my story about what happened to me, and so therefore you want to tell me about yours. And we always try to one-up one another. I don't know why, but we're like, oh, well, this happened to me. Well, this. Well, that's called your secondary trauma exposure. Not only are you now taking in what happened to you, you're taking on what happened to somebody else as well. And yes, Amy, the suck it up mentality is all behind us. It can't be like that anymore, especially in our high-paced environment. And then there's the cumulative stress. It's kind of sort of related to the compassion fatigue, but the cumulative stress is on yourself. You're just constantly getting this, everything that you're adding to this, you have no way of relieving it. You're not relieving it, excuse me. Wow, I can't talk today. You are not emptying the trash can, and you got to empty the trash can. So how does that affect us in the workplace? It affects our feelings. We get anxiousness. We feel that feeling of uneasiness. My anxiousness was getting in there and wanting to answer the call. And what was the next call going to be? What was it going to be? Is this going to be another shooting? Am I going to go through this again? What's going to happen? The uneasiness of this was that you don't know what the next call is. You're uneasy. I mean, there's the anxious of let's do this again, but there's also the uneasiness of will I be able to do this? And the fear, not fear of answering the phone, but just one little sound on the other end can set you off again. And there's the depression. And I admit that I went through a depression. And there's nerves. And then we all know the 5 stages of grief, but the one I want to accept is acceptance. The denial, anger, depression, and bargaining we go through, it's a process. But when you get to acceptance that you need help and that you need to do something about this, it's really, really weightlifting at that time. Really weightlifting. It can give you clarity. You're able to make a plan. And so my night that night at the Combined Communication Center, it was my normal Sunday, and I worked 14 to midnight. Sunday was my Friday. I was looking forward to my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. My break came at 2100 to 2200. So my last 2 hours on a Sunday night, I usually like to read. It really decompresses my mind to give it clarity before I go home and have my days off with the wife and kids. I wasn't able to do that this night. At 10:08 p.m., I took my first call for the event, and it was a Metro officer calling us, asking if we had the shooting already. At the time of the call, it was 16 people injured, 4 deceased, and one of them was an officer. I'm sorry, the doorbell rang, and one of them was an officer. So I stood up, and next to me, I can tell my coworkers were on the phone. One behind me was asking someone if they were hiding in a trash can, all that other stuff. I am so sorry for the background noise. So when we did this, we stood up and told our supervisor on duty that we had an active shooter. The next hour and 52 minutes were a blur to me. It was just so fast-paced that all these calls kept coming in. Well, our supervisor, she was acting like a chicken without a head and running back and forth. So what I thought I could do to alleviate some of her stress was answer her lines. So therefore, if she's not worried about her phone and I am, she can focus on what's going on there. I'm sitting there and I'm taking these calls, and it's about midnight. And like I said, I'm there 14 to midnight. I was on a 14-hour shift because a friend of mine was attending the concert. Her name was Nina Newbert. She was attending the concert, so I came in 4 hours early for her, and plus my regular 10. And we have the fatigue rule, no more than 14. Well, I went to Letha about 11:50 at night, and I said, hey, I can stay if you need me to. I'm approaching my 14. And she said, can you stay? I said, yeah, I can stay. So I text the wife, hey, I'm staying. This is bad. You want to know what's going on? Turn your TV on. I'm sure you'll see it. And she's used to me texting her when I worked in New Mexico because we had snowstorms that would keep me late at work dealing with the snowstorms. Well, at about 15 minutes after midnight, a coworker of mine named Daniel came up and tapped me on the shoulder. And he said, I got this. Take a break. I got this. And I told him I can't take a break. I cannot take a break. He goes, Josh, we got this. Take a break. We got this. And I said, no, I'm not taking a break. I'm in the middle of this. So finally, he literally unplugged my headset, pushed me away from the console, and took over. I was lost. I couldn't go sit down and see what's going on. I had to be in the thick of it. So I go to Letha, and I said, hey, Letha, Daniel took over for me. He told me to take a break, but I can't take a break. Where do you need me? It's the first time I'd seen her stop since the event started. She looked at me dead in the eye and said, go home. And I said, no, I can't go home. I need to be here. She said, go home. Now, Letha is a mother, grandmother, been in the business for 18 years at the time. And she looks at me and she goes, baby, go home. No, Letha, I can't go home. Baby, go home. Letha, I need to be here. And then she got the firm, mother, baby, go home. Yes, ma'am, I'm going home. So I get in my car and I text the wife, hey, I'm coming home after all. She said, be safe. I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't going 100 miles on the highway because I know where all the cops were. They were not following me. They were preoccupied. But then I get home and I walk upstairs and my wife has the event on the TV. And she goes, look, honey, it's not so bad. When I got home, there was 30 some odd deceased, a few hundred injured. And I said, no, that number is going up. And she goes, no, that's what the news is saying. Honey, I'm your news right now. Trust me, that number is going up. So I stayed up to about 3 in the morning, went to bed. About 7 in the morning, I woke up, and that's when I had seen that we were in the 40s deceased and over 800 injured. And that's when I got guilt. That's when the guilt set in. That while everyone was coming in, I was the one going home, even though I was instructed to. And that's a lot of where the depression came from. So I figured, what is the next step? What do I need to get better? After my event, traveling on the road with that song, I Refuse, what do I need to do to make myself better? How do I get back to normal? And really, what is normal? What is normal anymore? So I decided I needed some counseling. I made it part of the plan is to get the counseling, and I accepted that I needed help. And I set up an appointment time. Now, if there's one thing I try to stress to everyone outside of the trash can is find your way to get you to let everyone understand what's going on with you. A lot of what I realize is my anger came from my wife will never understand what is going on in my head. But until I understood that she would never understand, I think that's what was holding me back. It's one thing to say you will never understand, you won't understand, but till you understand that they won't understand, you got to find your way to help them, give them some clarity as well. They're just there trying to help you, and when they don't know how to help you, it makes them frustrated. So my wife sits me down when I decided to make an appointment, and she goes, look, if you want me to go to any of these with you, or I'm here for you. And I said, actually, I want you to go to my first meeting. I want you to go to my first session. And she's like, are you sure? I said, yes, I want you there. She goes, why? I said, as a dad, as a guy, as a dispatcher, sorry if I break down, this part always gets me. I can't come to you face to face and tell you what's going on. I will lose that wall I have up of being the strong one. I can't be weak in front of him. I can't be weak to my wife. Call me hard-headed, call me what you will. I can't be weak to my wife. So I had to figure out a way to let her understand. So I asked her to go to my first session with me. We walk into the office, and the gentleman calls us back, and he says, okay, go in this room here. He goes, I have to get some paperwork. Just go in and sit on the couch. I sit at one end of this cliche brown couch in a therapist's office. She sits at the other end, box of tissue on a table in the middle. And while he's getting the paperwork, she says in a low voice, like, honey, are you sure we're not here for couples counseling? I thought we were good. And I said, honey, no, nothing. We're not here for couples counseling. If that's what you need, then that's what you need. But no, babe, that's not why we're here. So I'm sitting there, and he walks in, and he's talking to me, and he brings out of me everything that's going on inside of me. And we didn't really talk about the event to start off. We talked about my life growing up, my life when my stepmom and my biological father divorced, my life with my son prior to the 4 girls, all this other stuff. Then we come to the event, and I break down. All this emotion is inside of me, and I'm crying tears that I'm thinking I'm going to empty this whole tissue box. Finally, I'm talking to him, and I get it all out. I said what I had to say in front of my wife so she could understand. I said to him what I had to start making me feel better. And all these tears came out. And it was just this whole plethora of emotion and tears that I didn't know I had in me. However, as I'm trying to brush back the tears, I look to the right. And for every tear I had, my wife had 10 more than I did. And looking at her, I felt so relieved that I could tell her what was going on in me. Sorry. That I can't even tell you what it did for me from that point on. We leave there. We're in the car ride home, and she talks to me, and she goes, Josh, I never understood what you were going through. And I said, I wouldn't let you understand because I didn't know how to let you understand, and this was my way. So we went on our way, and after that conversation, the first 20 minutes, rest of the ride home, it was real silent, but I can't tell you how relieved I felt. That's when I realized everyone has their own method. That going to counseling can and should get personal. They will talk about divorces, separations, breakup. They will talk about your family history. And it can feel like it isn't necessary, but believe me, when you talk about the events itself, you start to understand how necessary it is. How getting this all off your chest, you coming out with this, you creating ways to help yourself and letting people know what's going on around you is just amazing. I can't stress that enough. And I realized not only did I start to clean up my mess from the trash can, I started getting it lower to where I can get to the point where it's almost empty. Having 4 girls, I'm going to admit it's never completely empty. There's always those worries. Trust me, there's going to be plenty of ammo here in the next couple of years. But again, having the girls and all that, emptying that trash can really gave me a new perspective. And I realized that not only did I need to empty the trash can, but I got to check my routine. What in my life right now is working for me and what kind of isn't? So a lot of people just in their normal day, they take their kids to school, they help their parents, they may volunteer, they also have work, they want an evening life. There's nothing wrong with that. And all this is great, but is it enough? Be willing to adjust your routine. Your old routine is an old routine. Don't let it get you down. Sometimes going into that old routine without trying to change anything up can lead you thinking where you don't want to think. So this is part of you now. What I like to say is do something different. It could be doing something the same, just kind of mix it up. It doesn't feel the same because it isn't the same. Get to a new place. Don't try to forget it. Trying to forget it like, oh, it didn't happen, or pushing it to the back, it's only going to lead you into grief. Remember, it's going to shape you guys. It really is. No matter what event it is, it's going to shape you going forward. So embrace it. So it has its challenges. You have the uneasiness, the anxiousness, the uneasy feeling, the fear, but they're all good now. These are good fears. These are stuff that you're doing. Bond with your coworkers. Change your perspective. What can help is I like to reference my uncle a few years ago. He had to have heart surgery, and they gave him this pillow. And I looked at him and I'm like, well, that's kind of productive. They gave you a pillow for your head when you just had heart surgery? And he goes, no, it's for me when I cough. And I'm like, well, how does that help you when you cough? He goes, what I do is when I cough, I hug the pillow so that the pillow absorbs my chest and the impact from coughing. Whoa, I would have never thought of that. So I like to tell people, find a pillow. Find that extra thing that you know when you go to it, it's going to help. That's there for you in those worst times. The worst times. The times where we can't, I'm not going to say brush off, but we can't use our normal means to help you clear your mind from the CPR call on the child. You know, maybe it will a little further. Listen to music. Listen to a different genre. I listen to all genres. I really like music. I listen to it as much as I can. Flip the mattress if you have to. Sometimes something as little as flipping the mattress, it gets you thinking differently. I love flipping the mattress day in my house because I'm a big guy. So when I flip the mattress, my wife's side becomes mine. It's all nice and cushy. Hers has a little divot because I'm a big guy. She doesn't get a good night's sleep that night, but I slept great. I'm sorry. But whatever gets you thinking differently. If you take a straight line on your way to work, make a right. If it ends up taking 10 rights, do it. But it got you thinking differently. It may take you a little more time to get there, but your mind's not thinking the same as it was. Create your new perspective. Take a vacation. Buy the car you've been wanting. Upgrade your backyard. Pursue a house. Spend time with the family. Set goals. Big goals and a few small ones. I will say that prior to this event, I was trying to work and get as much overtime and everything as I needed at work. Once this event happened and I went through my depression and came back, I just realized how much I enjoy being at home. I like work. I like what I do, but being at home is the best. I was able to buy a house in 2020, and I noticed we go on family vacations a lot more than we were. I take the time off work to do this. Now, even though you go through all that and you understand that you're getting yourself better, there is an incident for a chance for a refreak. When you think about a refreak in call taking, normally it's when you get someone calm down, they leave the room to get something, they come back in, they see the patient again, and they freak out. It's called the refreak. Well, on your journey to a new perspective, you can have all this, but one little trigger, the something like, for me, a lot of what I did afterwards is I used to watch the 911 shows. I wasn't really much into the hospital setting, but I used to watch the 911 shows and stuff like that. They had an episode where there was an earthquake in LA, and in this episode, the supervisor said, we need a warm body in the seat, and the phones were ringing like crazy. That was a trigger for me. That was a trigger that, oh gosh, that's too close to home. So I haven't watched the show since. Not that it was a bad show. It was just me personally. I don't want to watch it anymore. But you make your own choice. So that was the refreak. You can refreak by feeling overwhelmed. Another traumatic event at work. Traumatic event at home. Stress. Don't fear it. I mean, let's empty the trash can again. Identify it. Do what you need to get right. If I'm bringing this up, is because I had a refreak on my own. In 2020, as I told you, I was buying a house. Today was Monday. That following Friday, I was due to go sign the paperwork on the final paperwork on the purchase. We all know what happened in February and March of 2020. COVID hit, and it hit hard. The gentleman whose house I was buying, he worked in the movie industry, and because their job was so uncertain from this, he backed out of the deal. He backed out of his purchase in Hawaii and backed out of his sale. That right there brought so much stress onto me. We had gone through all this process. We had gone through all these houses, all this paperwork. I was a week away from finalizing the closing, and this happened. I felt so deflated, so defeated. I felt I let everybody down because I told them we're buying this house, and now we're not getting this house. I went to work, and I noticed again I was short with my callers. I was just mentally fatigued. So I pulled my supervisor to the side, Tina DeCola. Some of you know her, great lady. And I told her the situation with me. And she told me, Josh, take some time off of work. Put in for vacation time. Put in for sick. Call in sick if you have to. Take some time off of work. So I took 3 days off on top of my regular 3 days, and I cleared my head. And that really, really helped. It got me some clarity. Now, I know not everyone has the ability to take time off, but find something that gives you clarity and do it. Because think about your new pillow. You've already done it. You can do it again. Get your new perspective. Make a left turn. Make a right turn. Don't go straight. Go out of your way. Flip the mattress. So with that said, what I want to say in conclusion is that I have a quote here. It's, your future hasn't been written. No one's has. Your future is whatever you make of it, so make it a good one. I heard that in a movie one day, and it stuck with me ever since. It was Dr. Emmett Brown in Back to the Future 3, right at the end of the movie. And it's true. We may go through all this, and we may feel like it's never going to be clear, that the skies are going to be cloudy, that it's always raining. But you know what? We don't know what our future is. We need to shape it the way we want. We need to get a new perspective. We need to get to a point where we can literally separate the work from home. And that's what your pillow's for. That's what all the stuff in between is for, to help you get to that point. I want to thank everyone for being here. I'm so sorry about starting late and the technical difficulties, but I want to thank you, everyone, for being here, and I really hope you have a good day. This is my true email address if you want to email me. I'm willing to answer any questions. I'm willing to keep touch with everyone. I am on Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, but I'm not on there too much. I don't know the only TikTok I have is what my clock's doing in the house, and I don't Twitter, but I do have those. If you want to reach out, reach out. If you need tools, we can get you set up. But I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank Ricardo for having me on here. He's a good guy. I met him right after the incident happened, and I get along great with him. I can't thank him enough for letting me be on here. Thank you, everyone, for being here and all your comments. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you very much, man, for this session and just being so open and everything with everyone. I met with you all, I think at Navigator first, and then then after that it was at Kentucky. We got to hear more about your story and everything else, and it's definitely a powerful one. A lot of the stuff that you all went through, like, I can't even imagine. I can definitely relate with you, though, when you're in a position of no matter what call it is, the high priority incident, you don't want to leave your station because you started it, right? You started it, you're working it, but then we also have those that are working with us that see certain things as well. And sometimes we need them to tell us, no, you need to go. And that's what happened. And I met Letha as well, and I thought, yep, I can see that happening. I can see it all playing out. And just listening to her, tell her part of the story as well, I thought, yep, I would have finally left too. Like, baby, you need to go.
I left it out, but a funny thing is, I talked to her about a week later, and I told her, I said, Letha, I'd have never left had you not done that. And she goes, you know what, Josh? She goes, I was on a 14-hour, 2 or 10 hours. And she goes, my shift was over at 2 in the morning. I was out. She goes, there was no second thought about staying. She goes, you know what? I dealt with this for so long. Y'all can take over from here.
Oh man, that is excellent. Thank you again, man. Like I said, for being here and doing this session for everyone. And I mean, I'm sure you could see it in the comments and everything. Everyone was can relate, and just so happy to have heard this session. For those who are watching right now, Josh is also in the Discord community. You can jump in there. A lot of the speakers have been jumping in and out of the Dare to Be Great channel in there, talking and sharing insight and everything. If you're able to jump in there, actually, and add the email address, that would be awesome. And the quote, I love that quote. My kids and I actually watched it again recently. Like, sometimes we'll just get in on a kick, man, and we'll say, you know what, we're going to do a Back to the Future binge. And then, when it gets to that part, it always makes sense. And it reminds me of you, because you have the quote in this session. So thank you again so very much. And I look forward to seeing you at some of these in-person conferences that are coming up, man.
I know, man. I can't wait to see everyone in person.
It'll be good. For those who are watching, our next session is going to be at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and that is going to be with Ruth is Lagerquist? Lagerquist? If I messed up your name, Ruth, I apologize. I'll ask you when we're in the green room how to pronounce it again. But she's going to be doing a session called Creating Your Own Comm, and she's out of Sheridan County 911. So make sure to come back for that one, and we'll see you here in the next one.
Thank you, guys.